Welcome to Accelerated Velocity, the podcast that helps you move faster, smarter, and more strategically in the rapidly evolving world of AI. We'll break down the latest AI news and innovations and explore how they impact your marketing, sales, and business growth. We'll dive into practical use cases, unpack new tools, and cut through the noise so you and your team can adapt with confidence. I'm Grace Mathews, Director of Content at Inbound AV, a business development agency and HubSpot solutions partner dedicated to driving sustainable business growth. Each week, I'll be here with Peter Malick, our CEO and founder. Join us as we make sense of what's changing and what to do about it. Hello, welcome to episode 10 of Accelerated Velocity. Peter, can you believe we're on episode 10 already?
I am beyond excited, Grace. We actually officially in double digits, and they said it couldn't be done.
Yeah, excited to see what's in store. And today we're taking a look at ChatGPT's new connector tool, which connects a number of different apps natively directly with ChatGPT, and that includes Google Drive, GitHub, HubSpot, Dropbox, a number of other apps. And basically what it is that within ChatGPT, you can conduct a deep research query and pull on data from any of your connected apps to answer your deep research prompts. There are also opportunities for custom connectors as well to connect apps that aren't natively integrated with ChatGPT. Just a note on data privacy for anybody who's interested in setting up any of these connectors. You, first of all, have to have a paid version of ChatGPT to use this feature. And ChatGPT will not use your connected data for training of their models by default if you're on a team, enterprise, or EDU account. However, if you have a plus or a pro plan, you need to make sure to go into your settings and turn off improve this model for everybody if you don't want the data from any of your connected apps and your deep research queries to be used by ChatGPT for training. So we'll jump into the meat of it now.
Let's do it.
Obviously, we're a little bit biased because we're a HubSpot solutions partner. We're very interested in the HubSpot and ChatGPT integration. We set it up on our end and we've run a couple of sample queries to see how it works and talk about what's beneficial about it, what's not beneficial.
Okay, that's what I'm here for.
So the prompt that I asked ChatGPT initially was to create an analysis of our email marketing campaigns from the past 3 months that we've been sending through HubSpot. And I asked it to focus on identifying subject line trends that are highly effective, and then to also provide an analysis of our general email marketing statistics and focus on how we could increase click-through rates and identify some opportunities that we may not have considered yet. So first thing off the bat, once I asked that question, ChatGPT asked me a number of follow-up questions to kind of narrow down my prompt. I think that's a big benefit of this deep research feature is that unlike a typical ChatGPT prompt where you might give it a weak prompt and you get back whatever ChatGPT is going to tell you, with this deep research feature, ChatGPT is making sure to clarify important details in order to run the query. And so I answered those questions and I got our deep research analysis back, which includes a performance summary, some subject line trend analysis recommendations, and some benchmarking comparisons about our email performance versus others in our industry that we got back from.
So I think, first of all, the numbers that you just scrolled past, there we go, that, I'm really happy about our open rate. It's not like I wasn't aware of it, but it's a good, healthy open rate. It's around 30%. It's saying industry benchmark 42% average across all industries. I have a hard time believing that, honestly, because I've seen so many accounts that we've dealt with that have 4% open rate or 8% open rate and 12% open rate. And it's our job to get them up, but there are a lot of emails going out there that are not optimized to be opened. So I take issue with that. But nevertheless, I'm happy for the report about us. Click-through rate says 3%, and the range is 2% overall average. So we're running ahead of that. which is fantastic. Bounce rate is that approximately 1%, which is actually, it's higher than I'd like it, but ChatGPT is saying normal is less than 2%. So I guess I'll accept that, but I'd love to have definitely under 0.5% bounce rate. And unsubscribe rate, that's totally acceptable. I like that.
One other thing that I wanted to mention, I went and did a separate little search while you were reviewing these results, Peter, and the performance summary that ChatGPT is giving us, it's not entirely accurate to what I'm seeing on our email marketing dashboards in HubSpot for the exact same time period. For example, our current open rate for the past 3 months for newsletters specifically is just under 37%, whereas the performance summary report here is saying that the open rate for the past 3 months is 30%. That 7% is a pretty large disparity in my mind. So
it's huge. And then we move on to subject line trend analysis. And it gets dicey because if you look at personalization in use of recipient's name, so it says emails that included the recipient's first name or tailored content saw significantly higher opens. And showing personalization, subject lines can boost open rates by 50% or more. And so, first of all, my understanding is that was true. I think it's fair to say maybe 4 to 6 months ago that was true. It might have been a little bit longer, but it's not true right now. And I realize that since it's something that's changing literally every week, that it's, at least right now, it's impossible for ChatGPT to give you actionable and accurate data back on this particular point, which I think is interesting. And it really sort of goes to the overall subject of, like, you want to pick your battles. If you're using AI, relying on it for factual information, you want to figure out what you can rely on and what you probably can't rely on. And I would say through this overview and also, sort of just knowing how LLMs work, if something is changing on a daily, weekly basis, you're probably not going to get accurate information on ChatGPT or any other LLM. All things are subject to change, but that's my thought on that. And it's not to fault ChatGPT in any way, but it is just to say that there are things that all the LLMs are much better at and things that they're not as good at.
And I think some of these challenges are potentially in part due to the difference between accessing AI tools within a platform like your CRM or your marketing automation platform and accessing your CRM or your marketing data within an LLM, which is what we're doing now. Now, HubSpot has a number of native AI features which can, provide you insights on your reporting analytics and whatnot, which is very useful. And there's still development to be done there as well. But I think, Peter, to your point, if you want specific tailored insights to what you've been doing versus looking at maybe more so general industry best practices, this might not be the best approach right now.
And obviously, all of that subject line data is not taken from our HubSpot account. It's just ChatGPT going out and being ChatGPT.
Right, and you can see all of the cited sources are from blog.hubspot.com, not from our CRM data. Even though we do have the connector set up, that is not what ChatGPT is using our CRM data for.
And by its very nature, blog.hubspot.com is going to have a history, of a lot of articles about this. And if you probably went in and analyzed them against each other, you'd see a lot of shifts. But by its very nature, the blog is not going to provide up-to-date, accurate information.
So I guess the conclusion here is this specific connector might not be ready for these sort of analytical queries just yet. Now, HubSpot does have a number of sample prompts that you can pull from their website, and I'll link the URL in the show notes, that might be a little bit more suited for this feature. And I think it's great to play around with if you have a HubSpot account and you're interested.
Yeah, I'm going to give in to my obsessive leanings and say in this podcast right now that what we just explored there is huge. You want to start using an LLM to cut your hours, to return stuff that would take you a long time to do and do it in a well-organized way. And that's certainly possible. But at the same time, for where we're at right now, you have to consider, are the questions you're asking the LLM questions that the LLM can give detailed and accurate and up-to-date answers for? And so the answer to that question is sometimes yes, sometimes no. But if you're a company that's looking to use LLMs in your day-to-day work to make your work more efficient, etc., all that good stuff, you really have to do sort of a 40,000-foot analysis of, okay, what data can I count on when I'm asking the LLM? And that's kind of what we do right now when we're working with a client to build a custom AI solution, is we want to make sure that the data that's coming in is pristine, is that it's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be at least pretty much as accurate as you can reasonably expect.
When is the right time to rely on native AI tools, like, for example, native HubSpot AI, other tools native to your marketing automation platform or your CRM of choice, versus to seek custom integrations that bring specific AI capabilities into the platforms that you rely on as a business every day?
Well, I think that there's more than two categories here. One of them is AI intelligence based on certain products. So HubSpot being one, they've really gone all in on AI. They acquired the company Clearbit and incorporated that into HubSpot for different data enhancement functions and all AI functions. We use, as an example, ClickUp as a project management tool. And ClickUp now has its own AI, which is specific to ClickUp. And I would say in general, those integrations are pretty solid because they're just dealing with a very finite data set. And so you can rely on it. I think that general chat is helpful for many things, and it's helpful for research, it's helpful for generating ideas, it's helpful for a general overview, and it's helpful for a detailed overview. But you still have to really check your work, and one way to do that is to do it on different LLMs.
Yeah, and Peter, this gets me thinking about something we talk about all the time as HubSpot partners, which is the value of a single source of truth. In other words, having a centralized platform with all of your data, all of your marketing, sales, service activities, all talking to one another so that there aren't discrepancies. And I think that's shifting or being disrupted a little bit by so many new enticing AI tools coming out from so many different companies. How do we maintain, at least to the best of our abilities, the single source of truth right now, while also kind of experimenting with all this stuff?
Yeah, I think single source of truth in regards to LLMs and in regards to getting it, single source of truth into HubSpot, probably the best strategy right now is to build an agent that again researches in multiple platforms and then has some way of reconciling the conflicting data that's coming in. And maybe that even looks like going out to additional platforms to really see what the consensus is. And sometimes, in today's world especially, the consensus isn't necessarily that accurate. But nevertheless, I think that's the best shot for getting a single source of truth as far as AI-type data into HubSpot. For anybody who's watching this podcast, I'd love to get your feedback about your opinions of how you want to consume information, especially around AI. Do you want the unvarnished truth, or is it more fulfilling to find the bright shining object that may or may not be the real bright shining object? So I'd love your input on that, and because it's a complex world out there.
And also, I think there's a different value of knowing what the latest buzz is on a day-to-day basis versus letting something settle and then coming back to it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to give this podcast a positive review if you can.
And subscribe. Subscribing is a good thing.
Absolutely. And any other link or reference you might need or want will be down in the show notes as usual. Thanks for listening.
See you next week.